All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Benjamin Pothier. I'm a fellow international of the Explorers Club, and I'm an analog astronaut as well as a human factor expert for the Human Spaceflight Committee of the IAF, the International Astronautical Federation. I will present you some of my field experiences as an explorer and analog astronaut that will hopefully give you some insight about the reality of analog training and research. I started my research as an explorer, and there are indeed similarities between extreme expedition and astronaut training, like exposure to danger or hypoxia training. On the slide, you can see me virtually biking on top of Mont Blanc, France's highest mountain. And on the other picture, it's my colleague and NASA astronaut candidate, Dr. Uliana Horodishky's doing an hypoxia training during the POSUM program. Of course, both activities require a sense of focus, crew bonding, and both tend to provide field knowledge of geologic particularities on Earth that are similar to what one could find on the Moon, Mars, or asteroids. For me, it all started in 2013. I got selected to participate to the Arctic Circle Residency in Svalbard at 20 degrees from the North Pole and in the Arctic Ocean. It was organized by the Farm Incorporated, a New York-based cultural organization. I was the first French selected, and I spent a bit more than 15 days in a boat in the Arctic Ocean up to 20 degrees from the North Pole. And it was for me my first experience to train physically for an expedition. The next year, I got lucky to be selected for the Ars Bioarctica residency. And at the same time, I received the French-Norwegian Center for Human and Social Science grant. So I got the opportunity to stay 2 months in the high Arctic during the polar night. I spent more than a month at Kilpisjärvi's biological research station. And the same year, I published an interview of one of my colleagues, TED fellow Sarah Jane Pearl, who was training as an artist astronaut. And the article was comparing the human adaptation to the underwater and zero gravity environment. In 2015, Dr. Sarah Jane Pearl invited me to participate to the Bending Horizon Everest expedition. So I got hired as a technical advisor and Everest Base Camp crew member for our attempt to climb the Everest. I trained physically for 6 months, including the hypoxia test with Professor Richalet, a high altitude sickness expert that you saw on the previous slide. And quite unfortunately, this expedition got cancelled because of the earthquake that struck Nepal. However, the next year, my friend and colleague, the Dr. Uliana Horodishky, a US astronaut candidate who already trained with the POSUM program, invited me to participate to the 2016 Ngozumpa Glacier expedition. So we climbed up to 5,500 meters near the Tibetan-Nepal border in the mountain on an unexplored glacier. We did a total of around 15 days of hike in the Himalayas, and I got 4 months for physical training before departure. Here, for example, you can see the Dr. Horodishky repairing a weather station that was destroyed by the earthquake the year before, and that was one of our reasons to climb up to, for this specific glacier, I think it was 4,800 meters in the Himalayas. The following year, in 2017, once again, I joined my friend and colleague, Dr. Ordishki, this time for the Science in the Wild Atacama Desert expedition. It was a Mars analog Recon expedition. I got 3 months of training. I got the quite amazing opportunity to do field studies, including astrobiology, with astronaut candidates from the POSSUM and as well as Mars One program. Because with us on the slide on the right, just next to me, wearing the balaclava and the blue jacket, there's Etsuko Shimabukuro wearing a red jacket, and she was one of the 100 people selected for a Mars One program, a program which is of course cancelled now. But it was very interesting to share some time with her and to learn about her psychology, basically, because she was ready to do a one-way trip to Mars, which is quite unique. And it was really, really interesting to learn about her commitment to that kind of expedition. So this was a very demanding expedition because we climbed an active volcano, the Ojos del Salado, and we climbed it up to almost 6,000 meters, which start to be extreme high altitude. But also it was for me a way to learn to get field experiences of crew bonding and group cohesion in extreme environment. And when I came back, I got invited by an event co-organized by the European Space Agency to deliver a talk about my experiences. So here we are, just entering the Atacama Desert. This is our first base camp. This is 5,500 meters. And this is almost 6,000 meters. It's the last shelter before the top of the volcano. In April of the same year, in 2018, I got hired as an astronautics consultant for a documentary project. So I got the opportunity to spend 10 days filming POSSUM program training and Orion capsule egress training course. And during this event, I got actually invited to join the Mars campaign 2018-2019 of the European Space Agency and the International Lunar Exploration Working Group. Therefore, in September 2018, I participated to a location scouting in Iceland for future underground campaign of the European Space Agency and the International Lunar Exploration Working Group. So we did some exploration of those underground lava tubes to find a proper place to organize an analog research. And it was also for me an opportunity to study the logistics needed to organize an analog campaign. The same year in October, I participated to an Arctic survival and safety training at 20 degrees from the North Pole. I came back to Svalbard to get some new skills, basically. So the safety course included shooting training with some 30-06 Springfield ammo rifle for potential polar bear protection, some basic glacier safety procedure, an exploration of ice cave, and basic rappelling techniques training. Of course, if you are a bit familiar with astronaut training, you know, for example, that the cosmonauts trained for survival, Arctic and Siberian forest survival in case of an unfortunate landing in the middle of the forest. So, any skills surrounding those kind of missions can give you much more insight on the overall picture of analog training as well as astronaut training. So following my collaboration with ESA and International Lunar Exploration Working Group, in February and March 2019, I participated to the ICES EMM Moon Mission Simulation at ICES base in Hawaii on Mauna Loa volcano. So I got selected as an analog astronaut. I spent 15 days in isolation in the habitat that was previously built for NASA's Mars mission simulation. We were an international crew with 2 Dutch geology students, a Thai Italian researcher from ESA, a journalist from the US, and myself. And I did mostly anthropology research during this mission. But once again, it gave me the opportunity to explore other kind of lava tubes, this time in Hawaii and during quite demanding EVAs. And honestly, all the skilled coming from my previous experiences were very useful to experience fully my stay at ICES. So here is a view of the exploration of the lava tubes with a simulated spacesuit. You can imagine that it's really hardcore caving, basically. You can see the backpack that contains the breathing system. It's basically just sent fresh air into our helmets, but we are not allowed to remove this apparatus during the EVAs, of course. This is the habitat at night. One of my colleagues. We woke up at 5 a.m. one day just to see the sunrise. It was a fantastic experience, honestly. And well, the big question is that we are not cosplay astronaut, we are analog astronaut. So on one slide, you can see my colleague Niti upon Recon from ESA. And on the other slide, you can see Apollo program astronaut training in Hawaii. And you can see, of course, that they are not cosplaying astronaut. They are wearing some apparatus that mimic the constraint of an inflatable, not inflatable, a pressurized suit from the Apollo era. And these are the ways most of the analogs are conducted. So is the patch of our mission, 2019. So in July and August 2019, I got invited to participate to the test of NASA/Rhode Island School of Design simulation suit, the MS-1 Mars simulation suit. And we did actually tested this suit on top of the Grímsvötn, which at the time was the most active volcano in Iceland, and a volcano that is situated just in the middle of the Icelandic ice cap. So it took us around 10 hours to drive on the ice cap in the mist and on a pretty demanding terrain to arrive to our shelter on top of this volcano. And then we stayed 5 days together in one room with no running water just to conduct this test. And we did tested the MS-1 suit on various terrain, like ice and volcanic rocks. So it was very demanding and also very interesting because the danger was not really simulated, and to wear a spacesuit in a dangerous environment give you some new insight about I don't know, ergonomy, how to design it basically, because it's not like testing it on the lab, you know. To wear it on a volcano, it's another kind of experience, obviously. And this year in February and March, I got selected as the mission commander for a moon mission simulation at Lunar Ice Habitat in Poland, a quite specific habitat which was built in a repurposed former nuclear bunker on a former military airport in northeast of Poland. And this base is quite specific because there's no access to daylight. And the EVA zone is in fact inside a hangar, and there's a simulated regolite, the moon soil. And so we conducted some EVAs, indoor EVAs, which is quite unusual, but also because there was no access to daylight, it was a way for researchers to study our circadian rhythm. Think, for example, about the return trip to Mars inside a spaceship. So that's that kind of similar feeling, basically. And we did as well we participated as well to nutrition studies about the impact of freeze-dried diet on our physiology. And myself, as you can see in the picture in the middle, I began a research on neurofeedback for long duration space mission. More recently, this August, I participated to the Chill Ice mission, which stands for the construction of a habitat inside a lunar analog lava tube. I got selected this time only as a backup analog astronaut, but this gave me more insight about the way missions are organized. That was very interesting. And during 9 days, there was a three days mission simulating the deployment of an inflatable habitat inside a lava tube on the moon. It was a three days mission that involved 3 astronauts each time. And I experienced the role of being a crew support. And I also got the opportunity to spend 1 night in the habitat inside the lava tube, thanks to the organizer of the mission. So on your left, probably, you can see the entrance of the lava tube. It looks a bit like a meteor crater, but that's just actually the entrance of the lava tube. And you can see on the other side the simulation suit that our astronauts were wearing during the research. So basically, we trained for a couple of days, and then we dropped the 3 members of the first crew near a lava tube that they had never seen before. We dropped them with all their equipment, including a big solar panel, batteries, food, and the shelter itself. And so they had to move all those equipment inside the lava tubes, wearing their simulated suits, then deployed the habitat. And once the habitat was deployed, they were able to remove their simulated suits only inside the habitat. So it was a pretty small habitat. The conditions were pretty demanding, honestly, based on the feedback I received from the crew. and it was a quite fascinating experience, honestly. So here you have an aerial view of the lava tube system. And so my next mission next year will be in April 2022. I will participate to the SMOPS, the Space Medicine Operations mission at the Mars Desert Research Station in the Moab Desert in Utah. This time it will be a Mars simulation. We will be in total isolation. There's no cell phone coverage in this area. We will rely on the strict freeze-dried diet, and we will conduct daily EVA in a Mars-like environment. So that's it for my previous experiences. I hope it clarifies maybe for some of you what it means to participate to an analog. Of course, every station, every experiment is different. The food will be different. The settings, the simulation suits will be different because the studies are not the same. So it's I know that recently 2 people, including Cyan Proctor from Inspirational 4, the SpaceX flight, who got selected basically to go to space, were previously analog astronauts, but I don't think there's any causation between the two. So definitely analogs are not a way to train to become an astronaut. Of course, it might give you some, insight, and you could learn about yourself and about the procedure that might be helpful to get selected to become an astronaut. But if you are interested to participate to analog, please don't do it for that. Don't participate to analogs only because you want to become an astronaut. Do it for research. If you do it for research, you will gain an incredible field experience that will help you to find new ways to design, new ways to understand the needs of real astronauts. And if you can't participate, of course, get in touch with human factor expert like myself or other researcher and space architect that could guide you on this kind of research. And thank you very much for attending this talk. You can contact me at benjamin.pothier@plymouth.ac.uk if you have any question regarding analogs and human factor for human spaceflight. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter, and you have my portfolio as well, benipi.com. And thank you very much.